Hey, Rani here. Shall we make a game? We are still reclimbing. We are still climbing our way back to recovery, and today we have a few bugs to fix, relatively speaking, before we can really move on with the rest of the project. So, last night, post-stream, I had a bit of a play around to see, basically just putting a few more lines of dialogue, and I very quickly, hey, morning, you good? I very quickly found a few pretty serious bugs. Now this one here doesn't look serious, but it is an indication of something going seriously wrong. There's no line across the top of here, and the reason for that is, yeah, I'm doing better, thank you. Yeah. So every time it puts an item onto a list, it's meant to kind of like evaluate. If it's the first item in the list, it has a border across the top. If it's a subsequent item, it doesn't. So for some reason, when it's rendering the first item in the list, it thinks it's not the first item. That's kind of weird. Not the end of the world, but it's indication something is seriously going wrong. Now, if I keep clicking through this, eventually I should crash it. And this is a bit that actually kind of confuses me a bit, because I was under the impression that as this is a sandbox, all memory should be initialized to a known state. We're not doing any kind of like dynamic allocation or anything like that. So it should be very consistent in its behavior. You know, it should always crash or always not crash unless something's timing driven. But these events shouldn't, timing really shouldn't matter. So yeah, like there, it's actually put the box all the way up there for some reason. I've got no idea why. So, what do I currently have in my unstage changes? Yeah, I've got a note here about this. So, the way it determines whether it's the first item or not is that it runs through every single, it runs through every list item that we've already added to a list, and it looks at where the bottom of each item is. So yeah, it's looking for, is this list item part of the list we're in? Okay, yes. Is the bottom of that item below where we're currently looking? We start at 0, we start aligned with the top of the box. And if it's greater than, 0, if there's at least one item, we know that we're at least kind of starting halfway down the list. So that's what controls that line being drawn across the top. Now the fact that it's doing this, it kind of implies to me that something's going a bit wrong when, when we're putting in our first row. So it is being initialized to 0, but it should then be comparing. Yeah, it should be going through this. And for the first item, it shouldn't be finding any matches. It should be saying, this should be a completely fresh component ID. It shouldn't have any items associated with it. So what I need to do first of all is check when we destroy a list. Yeah, we go through all of these and we I think I see what's going on here. Right, okay. I think I'm using completely the wrong. Yeah. Okay, right. So what's happened here is there's two lists of. An item in a list has two different component IDs. It has a reference back to the list that it's part of, and it has a reference to the image that it's actually displaying. And it looks like I've not consistently used one or the other. So, let's go. Yeah, so this is getting based on the image component. That's fine. But this here, this is a bit wrong. So we're flying through our list of. I see what's happened. I think this is an attempt at optimization. Right. So yeah, I'm grabbing the image component out so that I can destroy it. However, I'm not unlinking it from the list, meaning that even though I've deleted the actual image component, I haven't unlinked it from the list. So it might then be going through the, when it's doing its scan, it might actually be finding It's finding like a ghost record, something that some parts of it say it's deleted and some parts don't, and different parts of the code are looking at different things. So let's just check for other usages of this and make sure it all makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, we're updating an image component, so we use the image component. And here we are. Yeah, this should be the list component, because this is where we're looking for an empty slot. That might explain why sometimes I saw if you had two lists on the screen, one of them would steal items from the other because they'd be looking at different information as to who owned that item. Okay, is that it for usages of that? Because that would make sense. There we go. Okay, let's build. Now this might actually fix another crash bug I had. Hopefully it does, because I was a bit puzzled as to how it's happening. Okay, this is good. These are now working again. Click on one of these. Hey, that seems to be working. Hey, yeah. Wow, I spent like an hour looking into this last night. Right, so there's these three kind of trees of dialogue, and they're all pretty simple. I tried to think of what kind of things you'd say to someone if they just appeared in your apartment. You know, you'd be like, do you look like an angel? Am I dead? Oh, this is interesting. I can click on it without being anywhere near it. Huh, I should probably fix that. Right, I'm just going to commit this fix first of all, because I'm pretty sure we've licked that. Right, how am I going to describe this? Fix reading from wrong list. Whatever, that'll do. So next up we have, you know, it's seeing this as being solid when it's not. So if I go down to, where am I looking? There's going to be code in here that determines which thing we're hovering over. And it's a big stack of if statements. Where is it? Not generating items. Oh wait, it's in the image component, it's not in here. It's just layering them up. This is creating one, destroying one. Okay, so here we are. Ah, there you go, there's your issue. So, this is basically where I'm going through all of the kind of like images on the screen, you know, all the 2D images, and I'm trying to determine whether the mouse cursor is within them. And yeah, I'm checking, does it actually exist? Fine, carry on. And then I'm getting the data for where it's displayed on the screen. I'm calculating where the pointer is relative to that image. And then I'm checking whether it's in the bounds. But then when it comes to checking on the kind of like x-axis, I'm saying if it's right of the image's left, or if it's left of the image's right, and at least one of those is always going to be true, right? What it should be is if it is both left of the right and right of the left. So that should fix it. Okay. I really want a skip cutscene button. I should really write one. I should really implement one at some point. Okay, so yeah, that's now working correctly. We're no longer experiencing kind of like ghost hovers outside of our hitbox. Okay. So I wasn't anticipating having those bugs fixed that quickly. That's good, I guess. Something that's actually kind of strange is the fact that sampling the color kind of worked when it was out and about. Oh, okay. Right, I don't really know why I did that. In here I have it clamping to bounds, and there's also a bug there because it's actually clamping the column based on the number of rows. That's not right. I don't know, man. I committed the code with that bug in it. When was the last time you had like a button in the game that you could click from just a random spot on the screen? I have actually seen that, I can't think where it was. I think it might have been a Bethesda game. I think it only happened at certain resolutions. Right. Where did I just fix that other bug? I fixed one somewhere. Wasn't there, wasn't there. Wait. It was, yeah, okay, the image helper, there it is. Yeah. Well, let's just check that fix actually fixed things and didn't break anything. At the moment, these shouldn't really be expressing because we're not usually sampling, we're not really sampling color outside of outside of the bounds. Most of the images are actually square, or they happen to have more rows and columns. I'm really surprised it didn't manifest at least once though. Okay, so I did start writing these, but then I found the bugs and started focusing on the bugs instead. So the next line I was going to have on here. So I am kind of thinking as I'm going, what can I do to make like writing the dialogue easier? Because obviously writing a dialogue system in C, not exactly a great language for it. And one of the things that actually complicates this is that in the kind of hosting environment in which I'm running this, you can't have a real game loop inside your C code, because to actually, the kind of like model this uses is, well, the browser that is you load your module and then you can call a function inside your code, but then that function has to return, like it has to actually completely leave your code to be able to say, you know, put an image on the screen. The consequence of that is that it means that you can't just have a loop. So you can't just like say have these, you know, dialogue lines together like that in a function, you know, go into here, this will internally loop until it's done, whatever. You can't do that because it has to return. So you kind of have to use callbacks, you know, say like when that dialogue's dismissed, call this function. So you end up with this chain of like tiny functions. It's kind of annoying, but I don't really see a better way of doing it. So the idea is that after, you know, you basically ask the angel kind of like, hey, what the heck, who are you? And it'll then kind of go, well, we don't normally converse with each other verbally, so we don't really tend to give each other names. So you can go, well, one of the options is going to be, well, you're talking to someone who does speak verbally, so could I have a name? At which point they'll give you a name. And I'm thinking that will be one of the criteria to get the good ending, I think. I don't know though. So, this is the code up here to put a menu on the screen, so I'm going to reuse that. And I need to pre-declare this because C is annoying. So yeah, we're going to place a new list over the protagonist's head, and I'm going to put some choices in here. So, what kind of options do I have? I guess like they want to just dismiss the dialogue tree entirely. You'd be like, okay, whatever, what do you want? Would be an option. And it's going to have a different callback for now. I'm just going to null that out because I figure where it's going to go. Yeah. Writing is definitely not my strong point, and neither is programming apparently, so I'm going to attempt to do both at the same time. I think only two options will do there. I never really want to feel like I'm putting like words in the player's mouth, so I basically almost always want at least like a line of dialogue to start with like answering a question or something like that, just so you're never quite putting like just words in the player's mouth. And so both of these, because whereas this dialogue can help a thing, which can only do like a basic line of text, will close the dialogue automatically when you select an option or when you click on something. If we're manually opening a menu, that won't, so we just need to remember to close the menu. Okay, so this is where the kind of like angel would just sort of go. Let's put this down here. It's actually going to be kind of like it's going to be funneling back in towards like some ending state. So this is going to be part of which the angel's kind of like explaining the basic kind of fundamentals of the sort of game structure. Is going like, actually not yet. I think I'll wait for it to take you to the rooftop because it's going to like show you the city and be like, here's what you're here to do. But it's going to be like, maybe at this point it'd be kind of like, you're about to move on, but before you can, you have a job to do. Even though I could fit the second line in here, I'm actually going to put it on a separate piece of dialogue just so you get that kind of like tension build. Yeah. Show kind of like one half the sentence, well, not sentence, but kind of like the sort of clause, and then makes the player has to turn the page to see the next bit. Ah! Okay, and next thing we need to do is, because sometimes you'll be coming into this from a menu. In fact, I'm thinking every time you're going to be coming into here from a menu. No, actually, no, you're not always going to be. So I need to check if you're actually, if you got to here through a menu. That's good. And then I need to make sure that every time I close this menu that I reset this back to none so that we know not to try and delete something that doesn't exist or something that we previously, yeah, I need to initialize this to say that there is no list open. And whenever I close it, I need to make a record that I closed it so that it doesn't try and close it twice, because I'm actually reusing these IDs and there's a good chance we'd end up deleting something else in the scene. Okay, that's probably going to fail to build because I think I've kind of broken. I've kind of moved things around a lot. Let's add some more lines to this branch as well. Right, up until now, I've never actually named the protagonist, and I don't think I'm going to start anytime soon. Let's make it so you don't have to type in any, let's make it so you don't have to supply a name to this. Okay, that should do. Hmm. There you go. It's nice and simple. It's like, well, try to figure out how to make all this dialogue kind of flow together without writing like completely bespoke paths for each part of it. You have to like kind of like come up with like sentences that I've never written kind of like game dialogue like this. You have to try and figure out how to make two completely disparate sentences. Hang on. Sentences from two completely disparate sets all flow into each other nicely. I was kind of like had an appreciation for how difficult this was, but never knew. You're not going to autofill that for me, Visual Studio? That's fine. That's fine. I'll go find it myself. Yeah, we're starting to end up with quite a huge stack of functions here, which isn't great, but we'll figure it out. This probably isn't going to build. Oh, I changed the header file, didn't I? All right then, so where's our first error? It is here. Oh yeah, I never actually implemented this. This is the part where you need to kind of like really press this guy for his name because you're really trying to get like, the information out of him. So this is kind of where you'd be kind of like, need I remind you that? How would I phrase this? There you go. Remind him that he's breathing. Now, at the moment, I have no kind of like sort of dialogue animation. Like, there's nobody's kind of like, talking or anything like that. Definitely going to see if I can put that in. Might try and do that today. Let's split this over 2 lines again because I want that kind of impact of having the 2 lines. And here's where we reveal the angel's name. Hey. And now we've got their name, we might be a bit more polite to them. So let's set the flag after this. Because I did actually create a flag last night to record whether or not the you've managed to reveal the angel's name. So let's put it in there. Very good. Off assistance. So yeah, like you've kind of like we're going down this kind of like dialogue tree and like being a bit spicy with him. You've got a little bit of kind of mutual sort of understanding and respect. So That's the idea anyway. Man, this would be a lot. You can see why people use languages like, what's it called? Is it called Rempe? Is it that the one? They just make it really easy to just kind of like, I think you just literally just write it like a movie script, right? Oh god, there's some stuff on there. Anyway. Let's make it jump down to here. The kind of funnel we've gone into. But the difference is this time, you've got a name. Right, let's give that a try and let's see where we end up after going down the Starlock tree. Let's go down all the paths and make sure they flow pretty nicely. Man, these builds take a while. This approach is definitely not scalable to bigger games. Okay, so let's do a little bit of a play test here and make sure that all of the routes work correctly. So, guy turns up, and then the game freezes for some reason. I haven't quite yet figured this out. I think it might be related to the audio system, because I'm timing things off the audio system whenever possible. I don't think it's, let's see. Oh, I was about to say we could get the performance thing open. Okay, so we ask him who the heck he is. And he's like, yeah, okay, yeah. You normally refer to us as angels, but we don't converse verbally, so we don't have names. And then the game crashes. I've got a line of dialogue that's too long. Oh, hang on, you can't actually see that. I have a line of dialogue that's too long. It doesn't fit in the box. So it was after this line, so it must be... Do I split this across two lines? That'd be kind of annoying to do, but let's do it anyway. Yeah, I might need to have some adjustments to that list system just so I can give more space for more characters. Okay, so we have the option for just like saying, what do you want? At which point the game crashes. Great. Okay, and then the cutscene kind of just ends. So that's when he's going to get up and kind of walk across and like get carried out the window, back up to the rooftop. Well, up to the rooftop, not back up to the rooftop. Okay, who the heck are you? You're conversing verbally right now. Excellent point, mortal. I'm going to crash the game. Right, an indirect call to null. Again, it's off screen. Indirect call to null. So that means that we have a callback somewhere that is going a bit wrong. I think that means that we are attempting to delete the list with the menu in it when we've not got one open. Great job. And we've done it 4 times in a row. Fantastic. Back at you. Okay. Conversing verbally right now. Excellent point. You're calling Marcus. Oh, that's... I've attached that dialogue to the wrong character. Oops. And also I put a new line at the end of the line, so it left like a blank line. It's a bit weird. Okay. Now let's give that dialogue tree a bit quick test. Now you can see how bugs happen in games, right? You really can. I mean, like, not to mention that changing any one of these, I in theory need to retest the whole tree, but who has time for that? Yeah, I just realized that it's kind of like a final line of saying, let us leave. I mean, like, the guy would probably head for the door, or he wouldn't, like, walk over to the angels to get carried through the window. So, instead he's going to ask him to step forth. Okay, next dialogue tree. Let's check the other dialogue trees. Okay. Get out of my house. I have not consulted your will, my friend. So I'm like, too many words. Right. Does that flow into this? Okay, which line of this is probably too long? Let's just trim the second line down and see if it's that one. One of the annoying things is I don't really have any way of checking the length of a line at build time. Although I could just make the dialogue boxes able to be wider, this is forcing me to keep the dialogue relatively short and snappy, which is kind of what I want. Okay, it's the first line that's too long. Okay, I'm just going to take a copy of that just so I've got the original text. And then that'll probably fit, right? Let's split this over a second dialogue box. This is a bit messy, but it's definitely very flexible. So this approach is kind of working. It's kind of working. We'll stick with it for now. Now, you might argue that I should be using word wrap rather than manually inserting new lines, but it allows me to be like incredibly precise about exactly where the text is split, which I actually kind of like that. I remember seeing, I think it was like RPG Maker on the 3DS, required you, it didn't have word wrap, you had to manually put new lines in. And at first I was like, what? Why would you do that? And then I kind of thought about it and went, it does mean you have very precise control over exactly how your dialogue is paced. Okay, that's good. That's good. So, which dialogue trees have we tested? I think we tested We've tested all of the bottom two. So you can ask him if you're dead, and he's like, how most unexpectedly and refreshingly perceptive. Okay, yep, that works. Okay, that's all the dialogue written. So I'm just going to commit that, I'm pretty happy with that. Let's just see what other changes I've made. Oh yeah, I never put like the sort of speech bubble thing on the bottom of dialogue boxes. Huh. Well, it took me this long to miss it, so maybe it's not really needed. And it would fit better with the game I eventually plan on making with this engine than it does with this one. Right. So next up, I actually want to make some animation changes. I don't remember what change I made to this file. So I'll just commit it with unknown changes. I'm just going to see if I can get rid of these blend 1 files. They're made by Blender whenever you edit anything, and it's kind of annoying. Okay, so I think it's that. Oh, hang on, startup blends. There we go. That's probably worked. Okay, next up we want to get the angel file open. No, not the angel file, the protagonist file open. In fact, I'll do the angel file too. Oh, this is going a bit wrong. Something's gone wrong with my file associations and Windows doesn't know where Blender is anymore. Okay, there we go. Here's that guy. Wait, why is the mouse doing this? What on earth? Oh, it's in orthographic mode. Why is it... What is happening? Is Blender having like a bit of a moment? I also can't get the search box open. Oh, there we go. It's come to its senses now. Good. So I do have like this shock animation frame, and I've rethought this. So previously, like he went like, spread his arms like in shock. However, I'm thinking he'd probably be shielding his face instead, right? So I'm going to delete that, and I'm going to put it back in, and I'm going to move the arms around so that they kind of cover up his face a bit more. So I'm going to use that good old 3D cursor. I'm going to move the arms around in front of his face. Let's see, he probably had them at an angle, so he had like one arm higher, one arm lower, right? He's trying to get as much coverage as possible. So this is going to be the high arm. Ignore the gesture he may or may not be making right now. It's temporary. We're working on it. And then we're going to put a cursor there, and then we're going to twist the arm around. So he's almost kind of like shielding his face. Yep, that'll do. And it looks a bit mangled. So the geometry is not great there. Let's just see if we can do something about that. Just a quick little edit. So what I do like about this art style is that you can make a real mess and it still kind of works, I guess. Yeah. Okay. So we're going to grab his whole right arm, and we're going to have it kind of like lower, so it's almost kind of like he's covering as much of his face as humanly possible. And a bit of adjustment to the polygons here, just a bit, just to try and keep that kind of here, like, trying the right word is for it, not density, but kind of like the volume of his, there you go, the volume of his arm and shoulder. And then just grab the remaining vertices. That does kind of look like his karate chopping the air, which isn't quite what I was going for. There we go. That's more like it. And you can't see this bit, and I keep forgetting that. So I should be able to do a make now, and we get to see how that looks in context. So, yeah, that worked a lot better. That worked a lot better. That looked a lot less goofy. So let's commit that first of all. That's a good self-contained change I'm happy to keep. Next up, next thing I'd like to change is that he's completely static, even though he should be, you know, like probably like going, because he's meant to be in shock. So we need to actually have a bit more animation when he's sitting. Oh yeah, I forgot he had glasses on because you can't see them. In fact, I'm just curious. I just kind of like a matter of curiosity. If I doubled the screen resolution, would you guys see the glasses? Oh yeah. So they are definitely there. Trust me, bro. They are definitely there. It's just that you can't see them normally. Yeah, let's keep the resolution low though. It's part of the art style. It helps cover up my questionable quality assets. So what's he going to be kind of like doing? Maybe just like a very slight kind of lean forwards or something. Just so there's a bit of motion there. So the head is entirely separate, so we can grab it. Let's grab the glasses too. And give it a bit of a rotation. Let's get rid of that. And let's set the rotation center to the center of the hips. And let's just grab everything except the arms. Maybe easier said than done, given they intersect quite a bit. Okay, we're missing 2 vertices. We're missing you and you and you and you. Oh yeah, I also need to set the rotation center to the 3D cursor. There it is. And let's do a very, very, very slight motion of the arms and legs, just so they're not kind of completely static. Oh, I can probably get rid of the symmetry modifier and move them kind of independently slightly. Okay. Let's export the protagonist again, and this should fail to build. And the reason it's going to fail to build is that the linking stage, yeah. So we've actually removed that animation frame it's previously depending upon. And we now have an A and a B pose instead. So we should bring those in. Okay, let's see how that looks. It might be a bit exaggerated, it might be a bit fast, we'll find out. So kind of rubs his eyes, puts his glasses on. Oh yeah, the leg movement is way too much. Yeah, that's way too much. Let's reduce that to like just under once a second. And let's have a look at reducing the leg movement just a touch. One of the nice things about having all of them as separate models is I can almost sort of do onion skinning. I can just basically like display the other frames and like figure out how much I want to move them by. Let's export again. So we've massively reduced the frame rate and we've massively reduced the amount he moves by. That actually looks pretty good. All right, let's commit those two. Right, next up, I'm going to make an alternate animation for this guy. How many blenders can I open? Oh, wait, hang on. Why is there any... Oh, hang on. Yeah, I can only open one blender at a time because the auto switching in OBS can't see more than one. Fair enough. Yeah, I've only got one frame of animation in here. That's a bit weird. Maybe I forgot to save this. That's kind of embarrassing. at least I've still got it from the OBJ files I exported, so I can bring this back in. It's not quite 100% lossy, but it's not the end of the world. So I'm just actually having to think here. So Y and Z are our forward and up axis. There we go, got them back in. Now, has it brought in the materials? Sort of, but they're wrong. So let's switch it back over to the right ones. Okay, that's good. That's good. Let's just save that and commit it because we nearly lost those changes. Save lost animation frames. Okay, so we currently have this kind of like rising animation where he's kind of like supposed to be kind of looking up. So we now want him to be looking kind of like very slightly below the horizon because he's generally going to be above the protagonist, right? He's taller than him and he flies very slightly. So, but other than that, the hand animation is going to be the same as is the back animation. So I think I'm just going to make a copy of these. And just repoint the head, I think. And if I want to make more adjustments to this later on, I can. So around the median point, quick rotation down, hide the other one so you can see what I'm doing. And then do the same with this one. Now I'm actually going to grab make the other one visible so I can line them up nicely. Again, almost kind of like onion skinning, sort of. So let's export that back out. And let's go to our Angel file. And we're going to import those new animations. Can make them much slower as he's not really meant to be active. He's meant to be kind of like just sort of relaxed. And we need to actually export this so we can use it in our other files. And then in our script, the bit where he kind of comes busting in. Yeah, this is the bit where we actually reposition him. Let's make him play a different animation. So we're going to use the we're going to use his mesh components, and then we're going to use the standing animation. And the other argument is for a callback to play when it finishes, but we're not going to need that. Something I'm considering doing to simplify this, as I can see animations like this happening quite a bit, is adding adding something like the timer component, but with the ability to run some code each frame. And it'll come with kind of like a general sort of progress thing in there. This will also have the advantage of making it so that you can skip animations, because you'll be able to go like, right, if the player opts to skip this animation, then just run the callback at the end. Right. Yeah, so now he's like looking down on the eye line's kind of going that way. It's kind of what we wanted. Good. That will do. Just make sure I save that file. Yep. Okay, so next up we want some conversation. Yeah, some kind of like conversation animation. So we're gonna do a very, very typical sort of, hey, how's it going? We're gonna do a very kind of like typical sort of, early 2000s JRPG animation where he just waves his hand a bit, like he's, I don't know. I don't know. I don't even know what you call that motion, really. So yeah, I'm gonna take these 2 frames again because I want that wing animation to be reused. Yeah, all good your end? And we're going to take one of his hands and kind of have it kind of gesturing at something. Ah, right, yeah. Right, so... Oh, actually I want to do the upper arm first. Lead it from the upper arm. Yeah. Oh, I want to set the rotation pivot to this point I've just defined. Kind of raise the arm up a bit. And then... pivot here. Bones, who needs bones? We have a copious lack of polygons. Right, next thing I'm just going to do is I'm just going to go into here and manually adjust the positions of these vertices a bit just to retain the volume of the arm because it's kind of lost a bit of it. That'll do. And let's just get the other one open. I'm going to keep that one visible, just use this kind of like an onion skin. Actually, I'll just select things what's hidden. So it's just going to be kind of like, think a bit higher, just a bit higher up. Not really that different a frame of animation, but just slightly higher up. So, I selected more vertices than I wanted. And then do something similar with the lower arm, similar position, just slightly offset, just so there's a bit of motion in there. Yeah, that's cool, that's cool. It's one of those things where you got something you really plan to do and just sort of like, whenever that guy turns up, oh yeah, this should also be hanging down here, shouldn't it? It shouldn't really be, because like that's like gravity's like pulling into his chest, that's weird. That'll do. That's close enough. Right. Next up, I'm probably gonna make a few more frames of like facial animation. So let's get the sprite open. Oh, I've lost the file. Here we are. Right. Never really animated a talking face before, so let's see what it's all about. I think I'll put it down there. There's plenty of space down there. Okay, so probably just gonna kind of like, not gonna be like say like draw a full moving mouth and that kind of thing. Just gonna hint at it really with a bit of shadow or something. That will probably do actually. I feel slightly lazy, but it'll probably do. So I only one of these 2 frames. I'm just going to grab the entire face and move it down. snap it to the pixels, just so we can get it nicely lined up. And then because the seam actually runs down the center of a line of pixels, just going to disable the snap. And how wide is this? It is 86. So let's do some maths. 162. There we go. Okay. Export this back out. And then in here, we need to then bring the... Oh my God, I can't type. Bring those into here and thread them together into an animation. So I'm probably going to want a few different kinds of talking animations, right? Like ones for different kind of like sort of levels of intensity. Not with the angel so much. It's going to be very kind of like sort of flat and neutral. Yeah, it's meant to be kind of like this otherworldly being, but the protagonist definitely should have a few different reactions, I think. Right. So get that building in the background because I've changed the header file. Let's have one here for the protagonist as well. Oh, well that's a thing. Thanks for dropping by. I hope you have a good weekend. That's vomit free. Right. Okay, every time I have someone talking here, I need to now switch their animations. I need to also switch them back at the end of the next line. Yeah, so here is where it should, when this guy's talking, it should set his animation. So let's grab this. And then when you get down to the menu, he stops talking. We also need to actually model the animation for the protagonist. So yeah, it's going to take 2 sitting frames and just modify them to have like a talking face on them and a bit of gesticulation. Where am I going to fit this in? Do I have enough room up here? Yeah, close enough. And it's similar affair, just basically a bit of very basic facial movement because you're barely going to be able to see it anyway. There's like no pixels on the screen. So let's hide those 2 frames and let's rearrange this guy's face, shall we? Sounds like a good idea to me. Saving again, I've got a seam running halfway down the pixel, so 68, so that's 176. No, I've got that wrong. What's double 168? It's 136. Oh my God. Cannot maths today. Whatever. So exactly the same animation pretty much. It's that very stock kind of, like, basic gesticulation animation that you've seen in thousands of JRPGs over the years. Oh, I've got the X-axis mirror on, don't want that on. And that's a good start. Let's have it more like kind of there. Snap the cursors to those. Give it a bit of a rotate. And now adjust to retain volume. Sounds like a cookery instruction, doesn't it? So I'm thinking this guy, is tired. He's just woken up. He's probably not going to be raising his arm that high. He's going to be kind of like going, "Oh, really? This time of the morning or the night or whatever it is." Again, not too much motion, just enough that the pixels are shifting a bit. Let's get rid of the other view just so we can see what we're doing with. Make sure we're retaining the volume. That will probably do. Let's export those and see where we end up. Oh, did I actually set the? I need to set the presets up so it actually exports correctly. And then let's see what happens when we build it. It's kind of frozen. I've seen this happen a few times. I'm not entirely sure why. It might be because I'm just really, really pushing this build system a bit further than it should be going. Okay, let's have a look. I don't really like that animation. I think it needs to be extending forward slightly more. Maybe I could have a third frame of animation of him kind of like extending it forwards a bit just to get like a bit more. I've had this whole like motif so far of like 2-frame animations, so we'll stick with it. Maybe I should play the talk animation while you're selecting this as well, just to really kind of like really drive home that you're selecting what he's saying. Let's see how that looks in context. Oh. Oops. Oh, I know what happened there. Right. Oh, this is kind of annoying. I wish C had better like type aliasing. So what's actually happened there is I've gone, oh yes, set the animation of this mesh component. By the way, here's the entity ID, not the component ID. So it's basically just taken a number from one context and use it in a completely incompatible context. Oh, that kind of looks like he's pointing, which isn't really what I was going for at all. Maybe I need to rotate the arm a bit. This is going to start getting difficult to select because all the vertices are overlapping with the ones in the main body. So let's try. Oh, case in point. Let's try that. Let's see if that looks a bit more natural. It probably won't, but there's only one way to find out. No, I think the problem is it's too forwards. Yeah, it kind of looks very directed, doesn't it? Pointed in a way that actually should have been obvious in retrospect. Let's move it back a bit more like that. So it's almost kind of like he's kind of he is still holding his arm sort of back a bit. Okay, let's give that a try. Ah, that's not terrible. It's not quite what I was after, but that's not terrible. We'll stick with that for now. Let's go back to the angel and try and fix their animation a bit. So let's have a look at the angel's animation again. Let's like try and like really kind of critically evaluate it and figure out where it's gone wrong. Okay, so this guy almost has the opposite problem in that he's not extending his arm enough, and the higher of the two frames is way too high. It's almost kind of like he's gesturing to himself, which he wouldn't be. Yeah, I kind of want to almost look sort of like open palmed a bit. Okay, let's see how that looks. That kind of works. It's still a bit too subtle, but it kind of works. It's like so we actually need to propagate that through all of the dialogue trees and give them a quick retest, and then we'll know for sure whether this is working. I am wondering, actually, whether I should have a system built into the dialogue helper for playing an animation before and after the line. I feel like that's going to be something that's really common, so I might do it now. Animated opaque mesh component ID. Yeah. I know, right? The good news is we actually got rid of the bugs. Put it on a big poster somewhere. We got rid of all the bugs in the first 15 minutes. And I've actually moved on to actually doing productive things now. How are you doing? Ah, good. I hope it's as glorious a morning there as is here. Right, so this means now we'll be able to pass in. I can't type. We'll be able to pass in kind of like the component ID of the actual animating object and an animation to play on both ends. And then we won't have to have that copy pasted code all the way through. We'll just pass through the list of exactly what we wanted to do. And we'll go an animation. I still don't know why they're in this entities directory, but I guess there's worse places for it to be. Next up, we just need to go around to here. Put them in here. All right, okay, that should work. And I also need to store the animation and bring in the animation header as well. So we've got the types for it. And then when we close the dialog, it needs to, I'm going to do it before I actually execute the callback. And the reason for that is I don't want to say set an animation and the callback reset it. Sorry, the other way around. Because it might be the case that you want, like, say, an animation to play in 90% of the cases, but not in all the cases. Okay, and I also need to bring in the animated component here so I can actually, use it. So something I need to think about here, I haven't got any transparent meshes at the moment, but I kind of want them in a separate queue. So you draw all the opaque stuff first, and then you draw the transparent stuff on top. And the reason for that is that depth actually gets quite complicated with transparent objects, and you kind of want them done separately. However, animation should be the same across both. So I am thinking about making it just animated mesh component, and it can internally kind of branch off to either an opaque or a transparent one. I think that'd probably be fine. So yeah, it's set there after animation, that's fine. And in here, we're just going to copy this into here. And then we're going to assign these two just so we can use them later on. Again, no callback on these. We don't care when these animations end. They're just looping sort of placeholder animations, I guess. We change the header, so let's just do a make jobs just so it kind of like gets as much of the compiled as possible. Right, I should now be able to get all of the talking animations from here and get rid of them. Instead, when I actually show the line of dialogue, I'm just going to say play in talking animation and then revert to your standing animation. And yeah, that'll do. Now, because this is a menu, menus at the moment are very much kind of like a bespoke thing. They're not kind of like a reusable thing yet. I need to figure out what the range and parameters are for that. I'm still going to have to do like the animation of that manually, but I think that's fine. So 3 ways out of this dialogue. Let's make sure all of them reset so he doesn't, he's not sat there talking when he's not. That's 1. That's 2. And that's 3. So let's do a make and let's see where, yeah, okay, yeah. This is going to list out all the places where I've forgotten to add dialogue, which is nice. Part of the reason I wanted to do it this way was that it meant that if I'd missed anything, it would immediately flag it up and I'd just be able to find it quickly. So most of the dialogue is on the angel's part. This is the only exception here. This is the protagonist line. Almost there, almost there. Ah, and this is another place where we need to manually make the protagonist talk because there's a menu. Does mean we're starting to get a lot of parameters going to this, but at least it means they're all kind of like structurally held together. Okay, right, so we have the menu to do next. So I'm just going to split this view in half so I can go find another example of a menu. And yep, that's the only bit we really need. And then no matter what you choose, it needs to reset his animation. So here's one. Okay, let's see what that does. Now we're going to need to do a complete retest top to bottom, see if make sure every dialogue tree animates correctly. That shouldn't take too long. Just going to start counting my eggs before they hatch. Sorry, counting my chickens before they hatch. What am I doing? That's not the idiom. I need to study more English. And again, we have the freeze. Why does it freeze that? It's so weird. Oh, that's gone wrong. Again, I think I know what's happened. Do I know what's happened? Something's definitely happened. Right. So I have this global variable, right, where I still kind of like the component we're going to be animating, and I'm using it before I assign it. So we're ending up with just completely random, basically completely random models playing animations. That's great. Okay, let's try that again. Okay, he's talking. Just missed the dialogue. Now he's talking. Now he's not. Let's go down the first path. Hey, what do you know? It worked second time. Nothing ever works first time in software, but sometimes it works second time. Okay, so let's try the next line of dialogue. Yep, it's animating correctly. That's working correctly. Let's keep going. That's not, something's not right there. And yeah, it's because I forgot this line was voiced by a different character. Let's go down that path now and see if that works. So yep. And then reminding us conversing verbally. There we go, that's animating correctly. And now it's oh, I forgot he had a second line. This is why you got to end-to-end test, no matter how simple you think your change is. It always breaks something. Okay, that one works, and now finally we try the third path. Well, the fourth one, I guess, in total, but the third one from the main menu. I'm not entirely sure this character would be convinced by that line of dialogue, so I'm going to put a note in there. Just to say that like maybe this dialogue needs, it's going to need a bit more convincing. And let's just commit what we have, because that's actually got things quite a bit further. Let me just check that I've definitely saved my changes. Yep. I'm paranoid about that now. Now I found that I accidentally lost my character animations to the angel. Managed to recover them, but now I'm paranoid about losing them again. Nice and simple, isn't it? Animate dialogue, not really a better way of saying it, not really. So yeah, I was considering getting rid of this index pool, and I'm just going to check if I'm actually using it, because I don't think I am. Oh, I still am. I'm using it for the entities. Yeah, I'll get rid of that at some point, probably off stream. Okay, so next up, we need this guy to get up and kind of walk across, and why is there a random pixel there? That's probably a bug. Oh, I think it's part of his wings. Let's just see if we can sort that out. Huh. That's kind of weird. Let me just check. Is it definitely here? Let's just draw on here and see if it appears in the game. Yeah, it is indeed, like, right there in the corner. That is very weird. Huh. Because you'd think if there was, like, sort of kind of like, you know, bounds bug like that, it'd be appearing everywhere, but no, it's just there and very consistently there. Let's have a look at the unwrap for this. It definitely goes right to the corner. I don't know. Had to fix that some other time, I guess. Not going to be able to unsee it now. Right. So next up, we need to have... this guy get up and walk across. He's not going to walk super fast, so he's not going to have a huge amount of walking to do. I'm thinking also the angel's going to kind of extend his arms out and he's going to basically carry him out the window to the rooftop. So start off with the sitting animation. We don't want the facial animations. And it's probably going to grab his stick at the same time. So let's just grab everything north of the hips. I love how funny the glasses look in this view. Every time it gets me. So you kind of like lean forward, right? You lean forwards and like kind of use your momentum to carry out the chair. So I'm actually going to use multiple frames of rising animation. Yeah, this is going to be kind of like the anticipation frame. Oh yeah, I'm just going to set the rotation center to the hips again. Select all of that I just selected. And then it's going to rotate forwards very slightly and kind of, pull forward slightly and up just a bit. And let's snap the cursor to the base of his head and then turn off symmetry, because symmetry does cursed things when you rotate. Because it's basically like I'm moving one half of it and then it's almost kind of like you've got a mirror kind of like cutting through. So as it kind of like rotates behind into the mirror, it's kind of like the other side isn't rotating with it, it's rotating against it. Very weird. But I can kind of do that. And then finally the stick is actually going to do something. Let's just snap the cursor to the bottom. Grab the whole stick. Ah! No, don't cut it. Grab it. And then do the same thing with his arm. Snap the cursor to it. Select the whole thing. A bit higher than that. Play around these vertices a bit, so put them in some slightly awkward, precarious positions. And then kind of bend the arm down a bit because he is kind of reaching for the stick. And then we're going to make a new frame of this. Let's call it Rising B. And let's really kind of shuffle him forwards a bit. So let's move the stick first of all, because he's probably going to be like levering himself forwards on the stick, right? And then we're going to grab the rest of him. And kind of shunt it forwards quite a bit. So like there. And then do something similar with the knees, just bring them forwards quite a bit. And then the feet are going to go down towards the ground. So he's kind of like shifting his weight onto them. And then we're going to fix this cursed ass arm. And let's make the left arm pull back slightly. I don't think you'll really be able to see it from the angle that the camera's at, but he's going to be kind of like pushing away from the armchair slightly with it. Let's have a look. Let's also adjust the head angle just slightly. And then T-pose is, yeah, almost there. So that's going to be like a perfect kind of like sort of transition between the two. Okay. Let's export that again. Oh, every time it forgets where I'm exporting to. So we're going to export a new animation. We're going to have a rising animation, and we're going to have a standing animation. In a real game engine, you'd have like a UI tool to do this. And finally, we're going to have our standing animation. For now, I'm just going to have him T-pose. It's roughly, yeah, it's pretty close to how he'll be standing. Right, and then we need to go through to the introduction script and then just get into play that animation. Again, it's C, so we need to give it advanced warning. We're going to be declaring a function. They couldn't possibly parse the file twice, could they? So yeah, he's going to play the rising animation, and then when it's finished, he's going to call another function, which is going to play his standing animation. And then it's just going to stop there because we won't have any other animations just yet. Now, have I named these incorrectly because they're flagging up as being wrong? Yes, I didn't end them animation, which I did because I was having conflicts. Because I had some single frame animations. Change the header files, let's do a parallel build, see what happens. Oh, it didn't like something. What didn't it like? Oh yeah. it didn't like the fact that because I made this function here to actually start playing the exit animation, but I never actually made the dialogue tree actually lead into it. So let's build that. That should be good. Off the top of my head, I don't remember what the fastest way to get to the kind of like end of the dialogue tree is, but the top and bottom options should be pretty short, so we'll go for either one of those. Oh, it didn't like something. Oh, did I not? Oh, I know what happened. Right. The default OBJ export from Blender does a few things that don't really help me. Like it won't export anything that's hidden, and it'll also like rotate the whole scene 90 degrees. I don't want either of those things. Okay. Got a bust in. Oh, and then it crashes. Woohoo! Indirect call signature mismatch. Okay, I think I know what that is. It's because I've given this kind of function to this, saying, yeah, like when you finish this animation, do this. However, this will be trying to tell you which animation's finished. So I just need to put a parameter in, even if I'm not going to use it for anything. And I'm just telling C, I know I'm not using it. It's not an accident. Of course, I have to, now that I've changed what you're giving to the function, I have to, when I'm telling, giving advance notice it exists, I now need to tell it it has that extra parameter that we're not even using. All of this in the compiler will probably just get rid of it anyway. Hey, that wasn't too bad. I might speed that up slightly, but that actually looked pretty good for like a first try. Cheers. So next up, we need a proper standing kind of pose. At the moment, we've only got a T pose, and so I'm just going to copy the T pose, make a standing A. Basically, I'm just going to put symmetry back on. Basically, just going to snap the cursor to this. Ah! Okay, so it's the button rotating around and down. And then I'm going to turn symmetry back off, and I'm going to give them a bit of asymmetry. I'm going to obviously got the stick, so I'm going to place that in with its two hands. Has just occurred to me this stick is way too tall. It's completely wrong for the guy. Oh well. I guess we'll just fix it in this. Let's drag it down a bit. So, what am I doing with this? It does now mean the stick is actually inconsistently sized between animation frames, but I don't really care. It's not like players running around with measuring tapes making sure objects are the same size between animation frames, is it? Okay, do I push the stick in or drag the hand out? I'm thinking I do a bit of both. Okay, let's make a second frame just so it doesn't look a bit weird. Right, what's going to be different about the second frame? I guess we're just going to raise the whole top half of the body up and down very slightly just to give it kind of like a slight breathing motion, something like that. Maybe a bit of a rotation like that. Not too much. Just want a bit of pixel shimmer just so it looks like something's happening. And maybe move the stick very, very slightly, just again, a bit of pixel shimmer. Very, very slight leg movements, don't want too exaggerated, he's not dancing. And let's export that again. Got a protagonist file here. We don't actually change the header files, we just change what we're importing. I'm starting to wish I'd implemented the skip cutscene button sooner. Hey, that's nice. That works really well. Okay, so we're going to want him to loop this a few times, and then we have a nice little simple walk animation. Cheers. I'm surprised how well these animations are going together. I think just the fact that the the geometry is so simple is actually really helping a lot. Let's just commit what we have. Make sure we save first. Yep. And now we need a simple walking animation. So again, this guy, his mobility is going to be quite limited. So it's not going to be too exaggerated. Let's say here, he's probably going to, because like, you think about it, he's going to put the stick forwards and use it to lever himself forwards. So that's going to be kind of a, and also he'll be using it to kind of, he'll be raising his right leg at the point in time he's using the stick to support himself. So yeah, that kind of makes sense. What's this? Why is this vertex? It's just a random vertex here, and I'm not really sure why. Anyway, he'll be rotating this from the top because we're using his wrist to do it. So set the cursor to that, and then I'm going to grab his entire arm. And I'm going to slide it forwards very slightly. I'm going to deselect this stick, and then we're probably going to rotate the whole arm very slightly again, just to give it a bit more motion. And the shoulder will pull forwards very slightly. Only very slightly though. And also, actually thinking about it, people tend to lean, don't they? Because they tend to like use the kind of like weight of the upper body to kind of pull them forwards. So I'm actually going to pull the rest of the body backwards, given I pulled the top forwards a bit. Or will I? No, let's just pull the whole top half of the body forwards. Okay, so we're established he's going to be lifting his right foot up, so let's do that now. So rotate it very slightly. Oh, turn that back off. Nothing too flashy, nothing too over the top, just a bit of motion, and we're going to pull the back foot back. And this does mean his left leg is going to be getting very slightly longer than his right leg, which makes no sense, but it doesn't really matter that much. Yep, that looks okay. Doesn't look fantastic, but looks okay. Let's duplicate that, and let's make a version 2. And again, so basically going to be sort of mirroring the leg motions. So what I'm actually very tempted to do is, I think I'm going to go for it. In an attempt to speed this up, I'm actually going to delete the entire. Yeah, I'm going to delete the entire lower half of his body and then just swap them over. Separated. Oh, hang on. And then just flip it around. Just save ourselves the time of animating that again. And then we're going to pull the stick back. So again, we're going to probably leave the rotation center there, to be honest. Grab the stick, grab its entire arm. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to look good enough kind of on screen. Right, what will his head be doing? Because at this point, we're going to want a bit of bob, but not too much. Actually, maybe we really should go for a lot of bob. I mean, he's after all having quite a lot of difficulty moving. So we can re-export that. Yeah, and then we're going to have to export a new animation from this file. I really wish there was less boilerplate here, but this is actually nicer than the alternative. Right, so we're going to have him play this standing animation. But then we want it to play a few times, so... That would be a good idea. I mean, like, you seem to have a cake, so... Don't recommend that first thing in the morning, but... I'm sure there's healthy cakes out there somewhere. Okay, so we're going to have this call into this. Each time it's going to count the number of loops. If we've looped the animation less than 3 times, I could put this into the animation system. Maybe I will. We'll see how often we need to do this kind of thing. Okay. That should work. He's not going to be moving, which will look a bit weird, but that should work. Come on, build faster, build faster. Oh, helps you do a parallel build, doesn't it? There we go. I thought that was unusually slow. Okay. Let's see. Again, he'll be walking in place, but we should get a rough idea of how the walk animation looks. Oh, or the game could freeze. That could happen too. I really need to get to the bottom of that. Hey, that looks okay. That actually looks all right. His left arm is completely static though, and maybe his like lower torso could do with a bit of motion. Yeah, so I'm going to sort that out. So basically his left arm's going to be doing pretty much the opposite of what his right arm's doing, because he's kind of like using the momentum. Maybe I do a bit of rotation, you know, a bit like hip rotation on the lower torso. So let's just snap our cursor to these. That's way too much motion. That's way too much. This guy's meant to be a bit, you know, stiff. And then tiny amount of motion down here, just enough to kind of like really hint at something going on. Accidentally like made him do a bit of a dance then. Okay. Let's re-export that, see how that looks. Again, it's got stuck on that file. It did that earlier. It's so weird. Okay, how's this look? It's looping once more than I really intended, so let's have a look. Oh, that looks a lot better, but the torso can do a bit of motion as well. Just a touch, just to make it look a bit more alive. I'm also going to fix that bug down here where it's looping too many times. So let's reduce that to say 1. I think like 2 breaths is enough before he starts moving. Again, it's got stuck on the same file. That is so weird. I think I need more torso movement again. Again, it's kind of exaggerated, but like for it to really kind of come through the low poly style, it really needs to be quite exaggerated. Come on, you can do it. Oh, why is it getting stuck there? It's kind of weird. So it's definitely... Has it definitely finished the compiling? Hang on. I might know what's going on here. So there's multiple stages here, right? So there's a build tool that converts the model exported by Blender to code. And it's meant to run that first and then compile it. So then turn it from, you know, kind of like C code into not quite machine code. So I think they call it like an intermediate file or something. Do I definitely have a dependency there? Yeah, I must do because, yeah, we're saying that like, to compile, yeah, there's definitely a dependency there. I was just making sure that it was definitely like waiting for the generation of the C file to finish before it tried to compile it, just in case it was doing something like, say, you know, getting stuck on a file lock or something. But that doesn't seem to be what's happening. It's just locking up for whatever reason. Very strange. Might be a Windows thing. Okay, how's this animation look? That looks pretty good. That looks pretty good. So, again, though, we've got a weird white pixel appearing between his legs. I wonder what that is. It's probably a bug with my terrible triangle rasterizer. Alright, okay. So, let's just commit where we're up to for now. Coming in towards the end. So, I'm going to have a bit of a think about timer components with kind of like frame callbacks. That's probably going to be off stream though. Yeah, that's everything, isn't it? Make sure I just say, yeah, just making sure I save this. I'm very paranoid about not saving changes to my Blender file. so it's in here. Yeah, here we go. This is the yeah, this code runs every frame. It's kind of like play the sort of animation that happens in the background, like this kind of like rising, kind of like settling, and then flying towards the camera. At the moment, the way this is done is that it's I don't really think I can, with the limitations of the C language, I don't really think there's much I can do to make this easier. In any case, you need code running every time there's an update, so I don't really see what I could do about that. I'm going to rename this though. Shouldn't be called script test anymore. It's not a test script, it's the introduction. Oh no, I've double prefixed it. No! Oh, it's all gone very wrong. Find replace has actually been better there. Okay, that's definitely working. Good. Okay, so yeah, the next step is we need to have this guy walk across the floor, so... Yeah, the only thing I'd really be refactoring in the timer is kind of like having a callback that tells you how far through it is. I'm not sure how useful that would be generally. For now, we don't really need it, but I guess it could be useful. At least that way you wouldn't have to destroy an animation component manually when it finishes. Yeah, I'm probably going to do that. Well, what time are we on? I got about 10 minutes. So I'm actually just going to revert everything I just did to the script. And I'm going to have a quick look at the timer component, because there were a few changes I was thinking about making in here. Yeah, so I'm actually going to make this other change first, just because it'll actually tie back into it. At the moment, this does kind of compaction, because you have this... You have a fixed number of timer components you can have at a time, right? Each one of them is kind of like counting a number of frames until something happens. And at the moment, I'm actually putting a ton of work into keeping the list kind of like keeping it kind of organized, so that say the soonest timers are at the start of the list. So as you're working your way through, you can go, oh well, you know, we've hit a timer that isn't ready yet, so I can basically skip the rest of the list. But that's not actually true. That's actually not true, because you still need to be counting down the other timers, meaning that, you know, most of the... Yeah, you're already loading this data into memory, and the cost of checking if it's 0 is not really a lot. And there's a lot of work involved in keeping this kind of list, you know, dense. So there's no spaces in the list. And keeping it ordered, because like ordering is quite difficult to do in C. So like in here, it's actually whenever you delete a timer, it's actually going through the whole list and then kind of like shuffling all the entries down to make sure there's no gaps in the list. I'm like, this is a lot of complexity for something that doesn't really need it. As generally we're going to have a lot of short-lived timers, meaning that it's going to be refilling the... Yeah, if you like say leave a gap at the start of the list, it's going to get filled very quickly. We've basically always got tons of animated things using timers. So I am going to see if I can throw a lot of this out. Probably can. I spent ages making this work. That was dumb. Now one of the things that's really complicated about this is that you can actually delete a timer. Oh, but actually that wouldn't be that complex anymore. Right, so one of the things I was thinking was really complicated is the fact that you can add and remove timers while we're actually working through the timer queue, because you might say have this animation might finish, and then it might change the animation this guy's playing, in which case it needs to delete the timer it was going to be using to show the next frame, and then there might no longer be a timer. It might be like a single frame animation or something like that, or it might start other things in the scene animating. There's tons of reasons like timers could be added and removed. So like there's a ton of like complexity in here to handle that. But if I'm no longer like compacting the list down, you no longer really have to worry about what someone else currently reading for the list is thinking about. I still need to do this, so it adds an extra frame if you're currently iterating for the list. But it needs to add another frame if it's ahead of you in the list. Okay, I'm just going to, last thing I'm going to do is I'm basically going to make some notes on what needs to change. So yeah, remove all this compaction stuff, we don't need it. Don't find a particular slot, empty slot, find any empty slot. And of course, that's the other thing is, of course, it meant that if you say, if you had a bunch of timers say that we're going to happen in 20 frames and you're putting in one that needs to run in 10 frames, if you're keeping it sorted, that means that you have to move all of the other timers further up the queue. And it's like, it's complexity that doesn't really help anyone really, because like I said earlier, you're still going to have to go through the whole list. So it's not really worth considering. Yeah. Anyway, I think that'll do it for today because I'm a bit fried. Thank you very much for watching and have a great Saturday. We're picking us back up tomorrow morning at the same time, so I might see you then.